Joining me now from Montreal is Grand Chief Joe Norton. He is the Grand Chief for the Kahnawake Mohawk Council. And I appreciate your time today, Grand Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you tell me if you were part of the meeting with hereditary chiefs today?
No, that was by invitation only. And there was only a limited number of people that were involved. Not that I have a problem with that, that's just fine. That was in another territory. But tomorrow when the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs are here in Kahnawake, everybody's invited to attend and to participate. Maybe not ask the questions, but at least to observe what's going to be going on.
Right. Do you have any understanding or information of how the meeting is going with the hereditary chiefs?
Not yet. I mean, I guess we'll get a wrap-up sometime at the end of the day, but for now, there's very little news that's coming out of that discussion.
Right. The blockade in your area is still up. Any idea when it might come down and what it would take to get it down?
Well, there has to be a coordination between here in Kahnawake as well as in Tyendinaga and with the Wet'suwet'en chiefs in order for us to know that they are satisfied with the federal government and provincial government moves that are being made, and that sends us a signal that we can then move to disengage from what our people are involved in.
Grand Chief, where do you stand on the issue of the natural gas line? Are you hoping, like many of the Wet'suwet'en, that it goes through in order to help lift them out of poverty and have some self-determination? Or do you stand with the hereditary chiefs who feel that their opinions and their rights have not been respected? It's a difficult line to stand on either side. Can you tell me where you stand?
It's a fine line to walk, to be sure. But my instincts are to fall off that line onto the side of the environmental side of the issue, the stewardship of the hereditary chiefs in their desire to protect their environment. Because, you know, for me and for our people, we're always looking towards the future generations, and what kind of environment are we going to leave for them? You know, we always talk about take care of the water will take care of you, take care of the air, and the air will take care of you, take care of the land, and the land will take care of you. Those three simple rules, if you want to call them, we try to use in everything that we do as much as possible. So I have to side with the traditional side of protecting of the land.
And Grand Chief, I understand that perspective. And I guess what people don't understand, though, is that if the majority of the Wet'suwet'en under the band system, which we know was put in place, you know, by the Indian Act, be that as it may, why should a few voices of hereditary chiefs outnumber what the majority of the people want?
They are the consciousness of the people. That's what their role is. It's a reminder of what their history and their culture is all about, and the suffering that they have endured. And the use of force by the province, provincial governments, the RCMP, and whoever else goes in there, those images are what sparked this kind of situation. And, you know, with all due respect to the tradition, I mean the elected side of the issue, they have impact benefits agreements, or IBAs, which puts them in a position where they can't say anything, they can't do anything. All they can do is sit there because they've agreed with the pipelines, and the impacts, you know, are left for the future. Now, I understand the need to have an economy. I understand the need to be able to provide for your families and things of that nature. I mean, right now, the whole country is being affected by that. because of the siding of with the traditional side of the people in Wet'suwet'en. So that's understood, and I believe the Wet'suwet'en had asked for or had looked at the possibility of altering the route so it doesn't go through very sensitive, highly sensitive environmental areas. So there's always that opportunity to be able to go back and revisit. I mean, you're talking about companies or a company that's in there that is willing to spend billions of dollars. So why not take some time to rethink what's going on, because it's going to change the face of Canada, very much so.
You know, Grand Chief, I was speaking with someone last night, and I referred to the hereditary chiefs as sort of the canaries in the coal mine in some capacity. And as you mentioned, you know, they're sort of the conscience of the Wet'suwet'en people. But is there a compromise that you can see that will satisfy both parties? Because one of the conditions they asked for seems to not be met per se, because the RCMP have not pulled out at this point, but they've made the offer too. You talked about how they want to change the path of the natural gas pipeline, which might be doable, but removing the permits from the company that was already granted those permits doesn't seem, and I think I read a quote where you said that's not going to happen. You can't see that happening either. So is there a solution that will satisfy both sides once and bring those blockades down, once the issues of respect and hearing what these people have to say, what the hereditary chiefs have to say, once those issues are addressed?
Well, you've said it all. All of those things, once and I always tend to quote one of the hereditary chiefs who said, we cannot negotiate at the point of a gun. And I agree with that so much, because I look back in 1990 with the Oka crisis. I was involved in that time as the Grand Chief, and that was the same thing I said back then. How are we expected to negotiate when we have the military and the various law enforcement agencies pointing guns at us? So there has to be a way of easing the pressure on people so that they can sit down and in clear thinking be able to come to resolutions and resolves. And one of them is if the issue of withdrawing or removing a permit for the construction of the pipeline is an issue, then let's sit down, let's discuss that.
Grand Chief Joe Norton of the Kahnawake Mohawk Council, I do appreciate your time. One last quick question. We're flat out of time. But if you were asked to take part, because of your history with what happened, you know, at Oka and your clear understanding of the issues, if you were asked to participate and help mediate and resolve this, would you be able to do that?
I would do everything and anything I can to help resolve this issue on both sides. Not just with the hereditary chiefs, but also with Canada.
I thank you again for your time, sir. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.